afternoon, Carolinas District. How are we?
Good.
Awesome. Your Governor Mary has a heart for the unseen struggles of those within our district, and I just appreciate the opportunity to share today. So as I start off all sessions, let me tell you who I am. I'm Laurie Nappier. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in North Carolina. I work in a private practice. I'm in Charlotte, just north of town. Work with kids and families, couples, and do a lot of sibling work. Where I am, I get to see the front lines of what we see out in our communities, in our school systems and our families, and kind of where life has hit us over the past few years. As a Kiwanian, I'm the daughter of two very strong Kiwanians. I was raised underneath these tables as a small child. Became a Builders Clubber in middle schooler. In high school, I got to serve as Lieutenant Governor and as an international trustee. And then in Circle K, I actually got to meet my husband. My story sounds very much like Scott's from last night. Now the past president of the Lake Norman Kiwanis Club, and I serve with both key leader and a trustee. My work as a Kiwanian really has impacted the way I do my work professionally. It helps me understand where the needs are for our students, for our children, mentally, socially, emotionally, and physically. So what do we think of when we think of mental health? We think of the heavy. We think of suicides, we think of shootings, we think of major trauma, we think of all these stories that we hear out there. But the truth of the matter is that mental health impacts all of us. So that's a little bit of what I want to do today, is I want us to have a bigger understanding of what mental health is. So to get started, we're going to do an activity. All right? We're all friends here, right? That's a nod. That's a nod. All right, so I want us to let our guard down a little bit. I want us to all be honest. We're not going to be afraid to be real in these moments. I'm going to list some scenarios. If that applies to you, I want you to raise your hand. Keep it up. Okay? We're all in agreement? Yeah. Okay. Raise your hand if you've had days where you were so overwhelmed you couldn't think straight. You get so distracted, you struggle to finish things, and you get in trouble for it. You've avoided a conversation or person for fear of what might happen. You've heard others arguing and it upset you. You or someone close to you got scary news from a doctor that was life-threatening. You've been in a car wreck that scared you. Keep your hands up. You moved to a place where you didn't know anyone and you were alone. You spent nights without a secure place to stay or food to eat. You've been assaulted or someone close to you has been assaulted. You felt taken advantage of or manipulated repeatedly by someone you trusted. You feel anxious or unsettled if you left your cell phone at home. Okay, that was okay earlier. I left it in my room. I was like, can somebody come on? Okay, so we all had our hands up, right? You can put your hand up. Each of these is a symptom, an indicator of trauma. Anyone and everyone deals with mental health. It is the reality of our lives. Some people call it for what it is, and other people don't. They pretend it doesn't exist. They blame other people or they hide their struggles. So what you'll see in your communities because of this, there's people trying to cope with it any way they can. So you'll see drug use, you'll see infidelity, you'll see anxiety, you'll see depression, you'll see parents that are less engaged, you'll see addictions to all sorts of technology or our phones. You'll see it played out in 1,000 different ways because we all deal with trauma. We all deal with mental health issues. So, some statistics for you. The National Mental Health Association in 2023 came up with some of these statistics based upon a wide variety of indicators across the United States. 21% of adults experience mental health diagnoses. That's 50 million people. 16% of youth experienced a depressive episode in the past year. That's 2.7 million youth. So when we look at large indicators, that's a huge one. Then we go back to COVID, right? So we're looking at 3 years ago, where what we started out, we thought was a 2-week vacation, became a collective trauma for us. I'm not saying collective trauma, this is what I mean. Never before in the history of our country have we experienced a situation where all of us were experiencing the same trauma at the same time. Meaning that you could have something terrible happen in your world, but your friends, your community could rally around you and help you manage it, right? Or a friend of yours could have something really terrible happen in their life and you could step in and intervene for them. But never before have we been in a place where you're dealing with the same emotional emotional stressors that your neighbor is, that your boyfriend is, or your girlfriend, or your teacher, or your therapist. Because I was dealing with the same things that my clients were, right? So what we know is that by July 2020, three months after the start, mental health diagnoses were up by 40%. ABC store sales were up by 38%. Drug overdose death rates rose by 50% after the pandemic. Now, some of this was involved because of fentanyl-laced drugs, which we know has been a major issue, but it was huge among our American Indian population, our Blacks, and our Alaskan natives. 50% of young adults aged 18 to 24, so that's our college age sweet spot, reported anxiety and depression in 2023, which those anxiety and depression typically has been found more likely in older adults, but not after COVID. Individuals who dealt with job insecurity were 50% more likely to be depressed. As you can imagine, all of a sudden we don't know how we're getting the ends meet. So that's your list of where the data came from. Now what I can tell you is in my office, what I saw was a whole lot of isolation. You have people that had connected fields, that had churches and Kiwanis clubs and community groups and neighborhood gatherings that didn't have anymore. And so people who could work were working from home, and so nobody could connect at all. So the isolation was completely on the rise, which meant that anxiety over the insecurity of all of it was everywhere as well. Marital struggles, social anxiety, grief over the loss of family members or friends. For my students, it was huge, right? It was grief over the loss of proms and graduations, whole athletic seasons, that college scholarships were dependent upon those athletic seasons. You had students that their whole identities were wrapped up in either their academic performance, which guess what, now we're online and none of us have any idea what we're doing, and we're all failing or cheating, and so we don't really know what we're doing. So there's academic loss or athletic loss because we're not playing any of those sports seasons anymore. And oh, by the way, my friend's brother has a heart condition, so I'm not allowed to hang out with them anymore because of all the implications of what COVID did to our communities, both to our students and our young adults and our adults. So when you overlay all of those things on top of each other and look where it lays out across our district has a whole lot of different variety of places. Raise your hand if you would consider yourself from rural North of South Carolina. Okay, and then we have our urban folks. Where are they? Okay, so what we know is that mental health looks different across those lines. Rural mental health, especially in the Appalachia region, which is where I got a lot of the information, is viewed differently as well. So first of all, there's a shortage of providers. So if you compare McDowell County to Wake County, McDowell County has 497 people to every one mental health provider. 497, okay? Wake County has 272 to every one provider. Our rural communities struggle with transportation and travel to mental health. They value individualism and self-reliance. It's that pull yourself up by the bootstraps. My mom and dad dealt with that, so you can deal with that, and there's no reason you can't kind of mentality. It's the value of family and community above yourself, regardless of what that really means to your own well-being. Whereas when you look at our urban barriers, then you layer in the loneliness of being alone in a big place, violence, high crime rates, homelessness, drug abuse, insufficiency of having access to mental health resources in that way as well. We know that 60% of our youth and 55% of adults with a diagnosis don't receive mental health treatment. In the United States, across the border, so there's across the line, 350 people for every one mental health provider. So regardless of where you live, rural or urban, you and the people around you are in need. So I want to share with you some information from the Fuller Youth Institute. The Fuller Youth Institute is a research-based organization based out of California, and they have really studied childhood development. Childhood development is from 11 to 24. We don't think of 24-year-olds as being children, but really, if you know how the brain develops, we're all still kind of getting there, right? So what we know is that our younger folks, when you're like 11 through 14, we have very black and white thinking, right? Our worlds are still kind of wrapped around what our mom and dad tell us, the communities and the beliefs that are thrown at us. As we get a little older, we have a little bit more gray thinking, right? We understand more abstract concepts. It's more what I think separately from what those other people think. And the more independence we build, the more we can identify who we are as people. So they identified that there were 3 questions, these 3, 3 questions that these youth ask themselves. First, my identity. Second, my belonging. Third, my purpose. Right? Your identity is who am I? The beliefs, skills, interests, my personality. Who am I as a person? The second is where do I fit? Now that I know who I am, where do I fit in my family? Am I a jock? Am I a nerd? Am I a brain? Am I a key flubber? Am I that kid who's involved in everything? Or am I musical? Am I poor? Am I rich? Who am I if I am a non-binary Christian? Who am I if I am a poor Republican? Who am I if I'm white but I live in that side of town? Who am I? Where do I fit? And then we layer all of those things on top of our purpose. How will my life matter? Does it really matter if I show up? Do I have a reason to be here? Does anybody really care? And what am I doing here because of it? In Chad Clark's book, Her 2.0, he talks about something called systemic abandonment. Systemic abandonment basically says that external systems like sports, music, dance, drama, scouts, Kiwanis, or even faith-based programs are all guilty of ignoring the developmental needs of each individual young person in favor of the organization's goals. What that means is that even if organizations that are supposed to be helping our students have wonderful aspirations and great purposes, if we miss the needs of our students, we are missing the boat. Does that make sense? Okay, so where we go with this is kids are looking for someone to know them, okay? Which means that if these organizations that are supposed to be helping meet my needs, they're not meeting my needs, then where am I going to find somebody who knows me? Where do you think they go? Social media, okay? So we get into a situation where I want people to know me, so I'm going to go to TikTok, I'm going to go to Instagram, I'm going to go to any social media platform I have, and I'm going to put myself out there so that people will know me, right? So then we have kids who are looking for ways, adults really, young adults, anybody who's looking for somebody to know them, so they way overshare. I mean, you've probably seen posts, right? Like, I don't need to know what you had for lunch yesterday or when you're going to the bathroom because people are posting all their stuff. They're looking for someone to know them, right? The flip side of that is people who are young adults who are looking for someone to have a relationship to model their behavior after. Y'all, I did an intake last week on an 8-year-old. I checked her screen time on her iPad during session. Her average last week was 10 hours and 45 minutes a day on YouTube. And her mom was like, yeah, I think she's been on it a lot. Yeah. So we wonder why her behavior is off the charts, because her modeling behavior is 11 hours a day of whoever she's watching on YouTube. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's where we are. So they start asking questions about who can I trust, right? What the Fuller Youth Institute found was that the most successful students out there, the ones who were the most successful in every avenue of measure that they found, were students who had relationships with 5 adults. 5 adults that were not their parents. So this could be a teacher, a coach, a community mentor, a neighbor, a member of their church body. It could be your Kiwanis sponsor. 5 adults, 5 to 1. So when we get into situations like this where we know this, you need 5 people. You need 5 people. Look around this room. Who are we? Right? A few weeks ago, I say a few weeks ago, it's probably months ago, my family got roped into leading the music for Vacation Bible School in my church. And we did the dancing and all the things, right? The theme this year was called Hero Hotline, okay? And one of the songs that we sang and danced to, I'll read you, one of the lines jumped out at me and I want to share it with you. It says, when the call comes, we will answer. We will follow where the need leads. Together we will learn to serve, and we will go, go, go. Together we will change the world. I'll read it again. When the call comes, we will answer. We will follow where the need leads. Together we will learn to serve, and we will go, go, go. Together we will change the world. Kiwanis is special because we are called to be heroes, and we're called to create heroes. And I have a really cool club. And my really cool club made me a superhero kid. But I'm aware. So What's so cool about being a superhero is that we have hotlines all over the place. Our relationships with our sponsor leadership clubs, your relationships with the kids in your neighborhood, the one who cuts your grass, the kid who serves you lunch every Sunday. These are the hotlines you have to the kids in your community. We have to work together as heroes. We have to find the needs. We have to develop the relationships and help. So I was taught to be a hero. I was a teenager who was impacted Kiwanis in a huge way. And I had heroes in front of me who were modeling what that behavior looked like so that I could then do the same with my peers. When I was a junior, I was lieutenant governor, told you that earlier today, in Key Club, and there was a huge hurricane that hit on the coast of North Carolina. It seems to happen, and it happened when I was a junior in high school. And I had friends who were on the district board who were up to their knees in water, and it was really cool. I saw Kiwanis do really, really neat things. And it gave me the vision to do the same. And so I motivated my clubs and we helped in huge ways that I never would have thought possible, right? So then after my junior year, I ran for international trustee, and on an international board, it changes the level of the way you can have impact. We did amazing things for eye deficiency disorder. For those of you who were Kiwanis back in the day when that was our major initiative, we beat goals crossing the board because we knew that a nickel saved a life, and you could measure that. And so all of a sudden, I was empowered to be a hero. So the question then becomes, how can you be a hero as a Kiwani, right? The first is to be present with your students, to pay attention to them, to remember their names, to ask them questions and listen to the answers, to remember when you see a kid in a meeting that they had a big math test last time and ask them how it went. Or remember if their parent works 3 jobs and they had a hard time getting to their last search project. The next one is to healthy model relationships. Model doing hard things. Model reaching out and asking questions. Ask for help and show them that it's okay to ask for help. If you can't get all the water bottles, let them see that it's okay to ask for help. Be who you are and let them be who they are. If there's anything our teenagers can sniff out, it's somebody who's not authentic. So don't go in and try to be somebody that you're not. Go in and be exactly who you are, because exactly who you are gives them the freedom to be exactly who they are. Encourage creativity and determination in your service. Try new things, and people, if we know anything, is that we have to do things differently these days, right? And that requires doing things differently and being creative. And help them problem solve through the changing times. Let them know that as you're being creative, you might not be successful. And that's okay, right? It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to let them see you try something new and have it not work out, but guess what? You're not going anywhere. You can help them problem solve and try something different. So we also know that there's some really cool projects out there that you and your clubs can do. The Calming Corners that we're doing today is a really cool initiative to provide sensory output rooms for our schools within Charlotte-Mecklenburg. Listening Booths is a really cool project that Southport Rhode Island has done, where they set up tables in middle school lunches, and they ask riddles and all kinds of questions to get the middle school students engaged with them, and they develop rapport that way. The Black Mountain Counseling Center is an organization in Black Mountain that the Black Mountain Kiwanis Club has supported for quite a while, and they work with mental health and substance abuse needs within rural North Carolina, McDowell and Buncombe counties with elementary school students. They do huge work. We know our relationship with the Boys and Girls Home hits on so many of these fronts, and that's work that we do as Kiwanis clubs, and we can also do with all of our sponsor leadership organizations. I'm preferential to Key Leader as well, right? Key Leader gives us an opportunity to build into each of our individual students, to give them that edge on what it means to be a servant leader within themselves. And we know that there are mentoring opportunities in every aspect of community out there within North and South Carolina. And that can be done in 1,000 different ways. Now, I would not be a therapist if I did not acknowledge the fact that we as Kiwanis have to be healthy too. And there are so many mental health needs. I mean, we all raised our hands, right? There's so many mental health needs that we have to be aware of, because you can't help someone with oxygen mask if your oxygen mask isn't on. So this slide is for you. The first thing I want to challenge you to do is to have a schedule and a routine. Have a time you get up in the morning and a time you go to bed at night. Have something to do during the day that will keep you healthy. Stay connected with other people. Now more than ever, you have access. We have Zoom, we have phones, we have lots of ways to connect. Please stay connected with those people who matter to you. Go outside. There is something powerful about wiggling your toes in the grass and having the sunshine on your face and taking a deep breath of fresh air. Being outside is powerful. Have a purpose or agenda for each day. There's a reason that you got up this morning, and there's something that you need to accomplish. Plan something to look forward to. It doesn't matter if it's a new recipe you want to try out or a vacation to the Bahamas. You need something on your calendar that you're looking forward to. It will give you hope and bring you joy. And the last one is to give yourself and others grace to have a hard day. Because no one's perfect, and we're all going to have a hard day sometimes. It's not the end of the world, it's just today, and you'll have tomorrow. So I want to challenge each of you to go and be a hero. You've had the opportunity to be one and to create them. And